Hello and welcome to our first post-release development update for Stronghold Warlords. The last week or so has been a whirlwind of castle building, multiplayer battles,
They're trying to break through my walls! No!
and for us here at Firefly, planning out our post-release roadmap for the game, which I can actually reveal to you today. Ta-da! Now, just as we did pre-launch with things like game features, unit models, voice acting, and a whole bunch of other feedback we received, we'll be continuing to look at feedback beyond this roadmap and making changes to the game wherever possible. Transparency has been an objective with Warlords from absolutely day one for this team, so we'll continue to do that with future dev diaries and other content here on YouTube. As we said before, if something isn't possible on Warlords specifically, but can be used for future projects, we will put it onto our wish list for future titles, which have been made possible with the initial success of Warlords on Steam and GOG. We're fortunate enough to be in a position with Warlords specifically, where we can not only follow through on our original post-release plans for the game, but also adjust that according to feedback we're seeing online. So without further ado, here is a look at the full spring and summer roadmap for Stronghold Warlords. Now, as I said, today's update reveal is just for the spring and summer months of the game in terms of our post-release plans, and we'll be getting to future updates once we've got these ones out the door. One thing we haven't highlighted on the roadmap itself, but something that will be coming to the game, are things like general fixes, bug fixes, stability improvements, and quality of life features as well. Now, while we do need to give our developers some time to recover from the launch during this pandemic, we are absolutely committed to this initial roadmap of updates and future content additions. While game balance and depth of gameplay is something we're going to continue to work on post-launch, one thing we're starting with this week in terms of updates is the addition of an extreme difficulty mode, which will be added to the game to give veteran players in particular an added layer of challenge. Available in offline skirmish mode and multiplayer, as well as single-player campaigns as well. Extreme difficulty is really aimed at your RTS pros out there, but also Stronghold veterans alike.
I have a bad feeling, Your Highness.
Also coming in this week's update, you can expect our first round of stability improvements for the game. We're also going to be adding some general fixes in there and the ability to use a unique keep in multiplayer, depending on which of the 4 main AI lords you choose from. And if you're somehow watching this video from the future and feel like Warlords still isn't providing you with an extra challenge, that gives me a great segue into our next minor update. Another upcoming minor update for the game will be AI improvements, which we're hoping to improve both with Stronghold Warlords in terms of our roadmap and future entries in the series. Now, while we're sticking to our overall goal of cheat-free AI in all normal game modes, this first round of AI improvements should improve AI performance across the board. While you'll be able to pore over the patch notes in detail once they're available, in broad strokes, this first AI improvements update will improve AI strategy in terms of things like building placement, economic management, attacks, and use of Warlords. This update is also planned to introduce fixes for the Warlords themselves for issues that players have been reporting, as well as a few quality of life improvements for the Warlords themselves. Now, moving on to our next minor update. New maps, obviously something that will not surprise anyone, but it's something we've been planning, pre-launch quite heavily, and that now can be adjusted according to player feedback. To begin with, we'll be sticking to large and medium maps for these updates, before hopefully moving on to extra large maps in future updates. One area we'll be looking at in particular is the size of both Warlord and player estates on each of these maps. Our goal across the board will be to make the player's build area as generous as possible, subject to the design and playability of the map itself. Now, you can expect larger map packs to be released alongside major content updates. However, we're also hoping to release either individual maps or a small selection of maps with minor updates as well. And we'll actually be starting that this week with the addition of a new map, Riverbend. This new map will be added as part of this week's Extreme Difficulty update. While we'll be looking to increase the number of overall maps in Stronghold Warlords long term, in the meantime, please do, if you haven't already, go check out our Steam Workshop page for the game. Here you can find over 100 maps created by the Stronghold community, as well as extra large maps that you know and love, and plenty of opportunities to build grand castles or just torture peasants. Now, moving on to our final planned minor update for the spring-summer period, we're actually going to be adding free build invasions to the game as well. Just like in previous Stronghold titles, this will give you the opportunity to test your ultimate castle designs made in free build against wave after wave of troop invasion. Now, the types of invasions you can trigger will have a theme around them, based either around a character or a specific collection of units, and you'll also be able to set the difficulty of each triggered invasion as well. Random events will also allow you to introduce challenges on the economic and sim side, as well as the ability to give yourself gold, which is always nice.
It's good to see the treasury increasing.
While I can't say exactly when it will be available, hopefully it won't be too long before you're testing that wonderfully designed free build creation against wave after wave of samurai. Now, before we continue, just wanted to say, please do consider subscribing to Firefly Studios here on YouTube. We do a ton of content. You'll get updates on the Warlords roadmap itself, as well as information on smaller updates like general fixes and sort of smaller patches. And then also, of course, information on new Stronghold titles and other games from Firefly Studios. Okay, so with that out of the way, back to the video. Now, moving on to our two major free updates planned for the spring-summer period. The first of these two is none other than our first AI Lord being added to the game post-release, Sun Tzu, the Master Tactician. Available in skirmish mode and multiplayer, as well as all future updates for the game, the addition of Sun Tzu means new castles to siege and new strategies to outthink.
Patience, strategy, and supreme knowledge of war have brought us this victory.
Our second planned major free update for the spring-summer period comes in the form of our first Skirmish Trail update for Stronghold Warlords. Our first Skirmish Trail for the game will come with 10 missions, one new unit in the form of the Samurai Lancer, 2 new Warlords with the Beetle and the Bear, and the ability to actually heal units on the battlefield with the Beetle Warlords Edict Field Hospital. For those of you unfamiliar with the term, just like in our Crusader series, our Warlords Skirmish Trails will be a challenging series of single-player missions. Each of these will present the player with a challenging combination of opponents, starting resources, and map types. So while the trails will lack the historical narrative of the single-player campaigns, they do make up for this with an extra spice, bit of added challenge. Now, we're calling this Skirmish Trail 1 for the obvious reason that more Skirmish Trails are coming. We know that post-release players want more single-player content from the game, and trails are definitely the most effective way to do this, while also giving veteran players some added challenge as well. As part of the Skirmish Trail updates, we'll also be adding our first ever post-release unit to the game in the form of the Samurai Lancer. Now, the Samurai Lancer will of course be available to play in all game modes, in addition to 2 new Warlords coming to the game as part of this update, the Beetle and the Bear, which definitely sounds like a pub thinking about it. These 2 free Warlords will be added to the game to complement our initial Skirmish Trail, but have also been chosen because the Beetle Warlord in particular has an edict that we think players will appreciate. This unique edict will allow the Beetle Warlords to place field hospitals out on the battlefield in the same way that the Tiger Warlords can construct siege camps. Feedback is something that we are constantly looking at for Warlords, and the ability to heal units is something that came up pre-launch, so we're looking forward to adding this as part of the Warlord system. There you have it. Now you know what the spring and summer months have to hold for Warlords in terms of free updates. You can expect more detail on these free updates in the coming weeks and months, as well as some information about paid DLC, but hopefully for the moment this gives you some indication of where Warlords is headed content-wise in the spring and summer months. We really are committed to improving both the core Warlords experience with improvements and fixes, as well as content additions, so hopefully this first part of our roadmap sounds exciting. Stronghold has of course been around for nearly 2 decades now, and I've been here for half of that. So we really are committed to improving each entry in the series, both with post-release content and feedback going into future titles. We of course want Stronghold to be around for another 20 years, and after a week of Warlords being out in the wild, it looks like we can both work on this game in terms of post-release content, but also invest in the future of Stronghold as well. If you're currently playing and enjoying Stronghold Warlords, please do leave us a user review on Steam. It helps out a ton, and we are really looking at every piece of feedback we've received so far. Finally, I just wanted to say a massive thank you from everyone at Firefly Studios to anyone out there who's played Stronghold Warlords on Steam, GOG or elsewhere, has left us a review, and hopefully we'll see you back here next time for more Stronghold content at Firefly Studios on YouTube.